cheap-looking horse. Family, neighbors, friends, people who've come here from long distances for this special day. It's a place in the middle. It's a place where we really look back and remember hard things, but it's a day also we look forward for those generations we will never see. I was asked by the governor of Minnesota, Mark Dayton, to read a statement, his statement, on the U.S.-Dakota War of 1862, and to share the proclamation that he's proclaimed for today. Thank you for your patience. This is an important statement from our governor. August 17th, 1862 marked a terrible period in Minnesota's history. The first victims of the U.S.-Dakota War of 1862 lost their lives on that day, on this day, 150 years ago. The ensuing attacks and counterattacks killed hundreds more soldiers, Dakota Braves, and innocent people. Tragically, those deaths started a vicious cycle of hate crimes which continued long after the war was ended. The events leading to these atrocities actually began before 1862. The United States government, through its agents in the new state of Minnesota, either persuaded, deceived, or forced the state's long-time inhabitants from Dakota and Ojibwe tribes to give up their lands for promises of money, food, and supplies. Many of the government's promises were repeatedly broken. The displaced Dakota and Chippewa tribes watched newly arrived settlers claim the land that had been theirs. They were denied their treaty payments of money and food, which resulted in starvation for many of their children and elderly. Often, when annuity payments did finally arrive, they were immediately plundered by some dishonest officials and traders. On August 17, 1862, a group of Dakota Braves attacked and killed 5 new settlers at Acton in Meeker County in Minnesota. The Dakota community was not unanimous in the decision to go to war. Some of them helped the settlers. Nonetheless, the war began. Atrocities were committed by combatants on both sides against combatants and non-combatants alike. Hundreds of people were killed. Many more Indian and immigrant lives were ruined, and the lives of Minnesotans were altered for the next 150 years. The war ended, but the attacks against innocent Indian children, women, and elderly continued. They were even encouraged by the governor of Minnesota. On September 9th, 1862, Governor Alexander Ramsey proclaimed, "Our course then is plain. The Sioux Indians of Minnesota must be exterminated or driven beyond forever the borders of our state. They must be regarded and treated as outlaws. If any shall escape extinction, the wretched remnant must be driven beyond our borders and our frontier garrisoned with a force sufficient to forever prevent their return." A Minnesota newspaper chimed in, echoing the governor's sentiments. "We have plenty of young men who would like no better fun than a good Indian hunt." I am appalled by Governor Ramsey's words and by his encouragement of vigilante violence against innocent people, and I repudiate them. I know that almost all Minnesotans living today would be just as revolted. The viciousness and violence which were commonplace 150 years ago in Minnesota are not accepted or allowed now. Yet hostile feelings do still exist between some Native Americans and their neighbors. Detestable acts are still perpetuated by members of one group against the other. Present grievances added to past offenses make it difficult to commemorate the past, yet not to continue it. I call for today the 150th anniversary of August 17th, 1862, to be a day of remembrance and reconciliation in Minnesota. I ask everyone to remember that dark past, to recognize its continuing harm in the present, and to resolve that we will not let it poison our future. To everyone who lost family members during that time, I offer my deepest condolences for your losses. I ask you especially to help lead us to better attitudes and actions towards each other. To honor the American soldiers, Dakota people, and settlers who lost their lives in that war, I order that all state flags shall be flown at half-staff from sunrise to sunset. And I urge everyone participating in the events commemorating this 150th anniversary to practice not only remembrance, but also reconciliation. Governor Mark Dayton, Governor of Minnesota. Governor Dayton signed this proclamation. Whereas the first victims of the U.S.-Dakota War of 1862 lost their lives 150 years ago on this day, August 17th, in 1862, marking the start of a terrible period in Minnesota's history. And whereas it is proper to honor the American soldiers, Dakota people, and settlers who lost their lives in this war, whereas August 17th, 2012, the 150th anniversary of these events, shall be a day of remembrance and reconciliation in Minnesota. Now, therefore, I, Mark Dayton, Governor of Minnesota, do hereby order all U.S. flags and Minnesota flags to be flown at half-staff at all state and federal buildings in the state of Minnesota from sunrise until sunset on Friday, August 17, 2012. And I urge everyone to participate in events commemorating the 150th anniversary of the U.S.-Dakota War of 1862 and to practice not only remembrance, but also reconciliation. In witness thereof, I have hereupon set my hand and the cause of the Great Seal of Minnesota, this 16th day of August, in the year of our Lord, 2012, and of the state, the 154th. Governor Mark Dayton, thank you very, very much.